This is the entire AI services playbook, A to Z, for your first $10,000 in profit in 30 days. And this is not theory by any means. I actually built this entire model by accident when my friend offered me $1,000 just to follow him around for a day and tell him where to implement AI. Now that one conversation has turned into a business that hit $8,000 in monthly recurring revenue in 10 days. And now I'm billing over $1,100 an hour as an AI concierge. So what I'm going to give you today is the entire playbook, every offer, every framework, every script, zero gatekeeping. I'm giving away all my resources for each of these business models as well. And if you stick around till the end, I'm going to hand you the exact week by week, 30-day roadmap to get your first client and your first $10,000 in profit. So enjoy the episode. This is the full AI services business entire course, A to Z. We're going to dive right in. So we've got 9 different sections that we're going to cover. Starting with the background, okay? Why does this business model exist? I'm only going to spend a couple of seconds here to kind of fill in the context, and then we're going to dive into the meat. So first and foremost, how did I come up with this idea? How did we launch this business? So I was having lunch with a very successful friend about probably 7 or 8 months ago at this point, successful commercial real estate broker. He's super busy all day, every day. He knows he needs to use AI just like every business owner in the world, which is why this is such a big opportunity. And he says to me, Corey, I'd love to pay you $1,000 to just follow me around for a day and tell me where I can implement AI into my business. That was the light bulb moment. That one conversation is burned into my brain and spawned the entire business model that I'm about to show you. So when I saw this super successful guy couldn't really take the time to figure out AI for himself, that led me to believe every other business owner has the same problem, and come to find out 8 months later that is the case, which is why this business model works so well. So that led me to developing the AI assessment, which we're going to get into here in a second, and then eventually launching the AI Concierge model, which is a service that the first 6 people that I pitched on AI Concierge, I closed 5 of those 6. And every person I talked to, I raised the price each time, and they kept saying yes. So I actually got to $8,000 in MRR in 10 days with the AI Concierge model. Like I said, I raised my price every time somebody said yes, and people continued buying, making over $1,000 an hour, actually more than that at this point. So the roadmap that we're going to cover is 3 different offers, from the free mini assessment, which is our tripwire offer, upselling into the paid $999 assessment, and then finishing with the AI Concierge as our upsell. And my promise to you guys is by the end of this video, you're going to have the full playbook and a plan to, in 30 days time, get up to your first 5 to 10K in revenue pretty easily just by implementing what we're going over here. Now, I'm going to be sharing my screen the whole time and giving you guys a lot of free resources that you can download and use in your own business. So all those links are going to be in the description below or in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast. So go and download those completely free. So the foundation of this business is what we call our AOA framework, right? Along with our other framework of the 3 levers of ROI when it comes to AI. So at the end of the day, with you, whether you're implementing this stuff for yourself or if you're a small business owner, the only reason you should be implementing AI is if it satisfies one of these 3 levers. An AI project or agent or automation or whatever it is that you're implementing needs to do one of 3 things. It needs to add effectiveness to your business, which means it's going to make you more money. It needs to add efficiency to your business, which means it's going to save you time, or it needs to enhance the quality of your product or service or your customer experience. That is the bedrock of everything that we're doing in this business. If an AI service or tool or automation doesn't pull one of those 3 levers, it is not worth our time, and therefore we ignore it altogether. And then that leads us into our second framework, which is going to act as the foundation for everything that we're doing here, which is our AOA framework. It stands for audit, optimize, and automate. And when we get deeper into the AI Concierge model, that'll make more sense. But from a high level, the reason AOA is important is because a lot of business owners, even clients that you talk to where you're pitching these services, they try to jump straight to automate. They have tried to create the Claude skill or create the automation or get somebody to come in and just automate whatever task is taking them so much time. The reason that doesn't work is because they skipped the audit and the optimize steps. So this is my warning to you guys. If somebody asks you or hires you to automate something, you must first audit the process, figure out how they're doing it today manually, so that way you can see how the process works end to end. And then you move on to optimize, which is where you cut the fat, because most processes are 15 steps and they only need to be 8, for example. So why would we automate a 15-step process that truly only needs to be an 8-step process? So once we've audited, once we've optimized, only then do we move on to the automate step, which is usually just us turning the process into a Claude skill or automating with some simple, whether it's an N8N or a Zapier type tool. So that's the overarching framework that kind of hovers over this entire model and this entire engagement. Now let's go into the offer ladder itself. So what is it that we're selling? First of all, we are selling a free mini AI assessment. This is our way of getting our foot in the door with a potential client. It's our way of adding massive value to the client to get them to be interested in our paid offer, which is where we upsell them the full paid assessment. This is our AI tools assessment. And in the AI tools assessment, that is where we are doing and we're going to get way deeper into this model in this video, but from a high level, the AI tools assessment is where we interview the business owner to uncover their pain points. Then we go out and prescribe 3 to 7 off-the-shelf AI tools that they can implement into their business immediately to buy back 5 to 10 hours per week or more, or to pull one of the 3 levers of ROI that we mentioned earlier, right? We're literally prescribing tools that already exist that are either going to make them more money, save them time, or increase the quality of their product or service. So we're not building anything, we're not creating anything, we're literally just telling them about products that already exist. That is the AI assessment, that's the paid assessment there. And here you see where I have every rung sells the next. The assessment is the sales call. So what's great about the assessment is when we teach you that model later on in this video, part of the assessment is having a review call with the client where we go over the full assessment report, and then we upsell them to our AI Concierge service. This is where we make recurring revenue, anywhere from $750 to $1,000 per hour for your time as an AI Concierge or more. And we're going to get deeper into what that model entails, how we fulfill it, how we structure it, going into later on in this episode. Now, one thing I will say before we keep going, so you guys might have heard me talk about assessments before or AI Concierge before. This is something that we actually give to our community members inside of our AI Operator Academy community. We give them the AI assessment and AI Concierge businesses in a box. So we give them every skill, every template, basically the whole operating system for a turnkey business for both AI assessments and AI Concierge. So if you guys are interested in that, as well as a community of other people doing this, check out the link in the description or in the show notes to join AI Operator Academy, or you can go to aoa.community and get more information there. Now let's talk about the free mini assessment. How does that work? We're going to go into this, guys. I'm going to hold nothing back. This is going to be all the sauce. So the free mini assessment, that starts with us offering a free 15-minute mini assessment to a local small business owner. So what does that look like? That looks like us literally sending a text message to somebody that we know in our network, right? And saying something like, hey, my name's Corey, you know my name, right? Hey, this is Corey. I've recently gotten into the world of AI. I'm getting super deep into the world of AI. And I've started to research tools that are helping business owners save time and make more money with AI. I'd love to sit down with you for 15 minutes to get a feel for how your business runs. And then I could basically show you one simple tool that you can implement to implement AI into your business to save time or make money. Completely free of charge, no strings attached. So you can send a text message like that to 10 business owners in your network. And that is kind of the tripwire that gets them interested in what you're doing and gives you permission to pitch them later on in the mini assessment. So when we're doing the mini assessment, part 1 is the 15-minute call, right? So this is where we're sitting down. So we sent the text to the business owner. They said, yes, I'm interested. So what do we do on the 15-minute call? We simply ask a couple of questions because we're trying to uncover one bottleneck so that we can prescribe one tool to fix that bottleneck. So we're going to ask them questions like, what are the repetitive tasks that you notice in your business on a day-to-day basis? What are the friction points that you're constantly coming up against during your everyday business dealings, how much is your time worth per hour, right? So the first two questions are designed to figure out, well, what are the actual problems they have where we can prescribe a tool to help? And then the last question is, how much is your time worth per hour? We want them to tell us how much their time is worth so that when we prescribe them a tool, and let's say that tool might save them 1 hour a week, well, if their time is worth $200 an hour, then we just basically made them $200 per week, $800 per month in quote unquote profit for free during a 15-minute call. So that's the whole idea. If we can show them a ton of value in the free mini assessment, show them tools that can save them time or make them money, then in their mind, they're like, wow, this was beneficial. Imagine how much value I would get out of the full paid $999 assessment. So that is the whole idea behind the mini assessment. Now, guys, something I want to show you too, we actually put together a free mini assessment playbook. Again, this is going to be in the description, in the show notes. This is literally everything I'm showing you here about the mini assessment in one place in like checklist format, including a couple of templates for both meetings, the full question bank and a checklist going into meeting 2 to prep for that. So again, this is a free resource. Grab it in the description, grab it in the show notes, and let's keep going with the mini assessment breakdown. So the last question that we're going to ask them on call 1 is the magic wand question. This is such a powerful question where we simply say something like, if you could wave a magic wand and fix any problem in your business, what would that one problem be? And then just listen to their answer. And guys, you'd be shocked how often the answer to that question is, well, if I could wave a magic wand, I'd never have to deal with email again. Like, email is the biggest pain point for most of these business owners. So by fixing quote unquote email, which is easy to do with AI, there's so many AI powered email tools out there that business owners just don't even know exist, then they see a huge ROI in that, and we can easily help them solve that problem. All right, so when we do meeting 1, right, we've concluded the meeting, we had the interview with the business owner. Now we're going to go off and do a little bit of research to come up with that one tool that is going to, help them, basically help them solve that pain point, right? So when we're doing our research, we're going to think about the pain points that they gave us during the call. And really, at the end of the day, the tool that we're going to prescribe to them, they fall into a couple of different buckets. So if the pain point that the business owner gave us is, high frequency and high friction, meaning it's something that most business owners deal with, then chances are there is an off-the-shelf tool that already exists to solve that exact problem. So think about the example that I gave earlier, email, right? That is a high frequency, high friction pain point for a lot of business owners. Well, there are plenty of off-the-shelf AI-powered email tools that exist out there. One of my favorite ones is sanebox.com. That is my most prescribed tool every time I do these assessments. So again, the framework here is if it's high frequency, high friction, there's going to be an off-the-shelf tool that fixes it. And 2 websites that you can go to find off-the-shelf tools very easily. One of them is futurepedia.io. So futurepedia.io is literally just an AI tools directory. They have thousands of AI tools here that you can choose from. Another one is there's an AI for that.com. Same, very similar to Futurepedia, just massive directory of AI tools broken down by industry. So if your client is a realtor, you can go and find AI tools for realtors. If your client is an insurance agent, you can find AI tools for insurance agents. So again, high frequency, high friction, we prescribe an off-the-shelf tool. Now, if it is a task that requires judgment, right? So let's say the number one pain point that we uncovered from that business owner is a judgment-based task. Something where it's not like a cut and dry response every time. They've got to make a decision or they've got to route something from here to there. Well, usually the best prescription there is Claude Cowork or any other agentic tool, but Claude Cowork is the easiest one to get business owners up and running with. So that would be the prescription there. If it's a judgment-based task, we would prescribe Claude Cowork. And then lastly, if it is a proprietary workflow or something that the business owner is like, oh yeah, our number one pain point is our invoicing system. Our invoicing system is completely broken. Well, chances are that invoicing system and that invoicing workflow is a proprietary workflow that they do a very certain way that's very specific to their company. So for workflows like that, the best prescription is a Claude skill, right? That is where we can take that process, run what we mentioned earlier, AOA on it, audit it, optimize it, automate it, and the automate part of that would be turning it into a Claude skill. Okay, so again, we ask the magic wand question, and then the answer to that question is going to determine which bucket they fall into, whether we prescribe an off-the-shelf tool, whether we prescribe simply Claude Cowork, or whether we prescribe a Claude skill. And remember, guys, this is a free assessment. We are literally just telling them what they need. We are telling them, hey, you need this tool. Hey, you need Claude Cowork, or hey, you need to turn this into a Claude skill. We're not building it for them as part of this free engagement. That is where the upsell comes in, which we'll discuss later. All right, so that's when we set up our second meeting. So we did our first meeting to uncover the pain point. After that meeting, we went off on our own and did some research and figured out what is the best prescription for that main pain point. And then we set up the follow-up meeting. And this is just another 15 minutes. It can even be a phone call with the prospect where we simply prescribe the tool, tell them the cost of the tool, and then give them the first step, right? So again, let's say the example that I gave earlier, the pain point that we uncovered was email. On the second meeting, we would repeat that back to the prospect. We'd say, hey, your number one pain point is email based on our conversation. The best tool to fix that is a tool called SaneBox. That costs $7 a month. And the first step is go to sanebox.com and pay for the $7 a month plan and set it up with your email. Like, that is the deliverable of the free assessment. That is it, right? So we give them that prescription, and then to tee up the upsell, that is where we ask a very important question. We say, great, you've got your recommendation. That should be really helpful for you. Do you want to implement that yourself, or do you want my help with it, right? Do you want my help to help you with that, or do you want to just hand it off and have me do it for you? Okay, so based on their answer to that question, and what you'll find is most people, when they, when you ask them that question, 50+% of the time they want help or they want to explore further. They're like, hey, this is great. This one tool, I could see this being beneficial. What other tools are out there? Or what other ways can I be implementing AI into my business? So you've kind of piqued their curiosity. That's why we call this a tripwire offer, because it's a tripwire to get them, interested and engaged in the real product, which is the $999 assessment. So what you'll find is when you do the free mini assessment properly, you're going to convert 30 to 50% of people to the paid $999 assessment, which is the next part of our free course here. The paid $1,000, $999, whatever you want to call it, assessment. So this is the part of the process where we upsell the paid assessment. So they're like, great, yep, okay, you got value out of the free recommendation. Let's do the full paid assessment. The only difference from the free assessment to the paid assessment is the paid assessment does a 45-minute discovery call to pull out 3 to 7 pain points and then prescribe 3 to 7 solutions, right? Whereas the mini assessment only did 1, okay? So when we do the paid assessment, we are going to conduct, like I said, a 45-minute interview with the client. And this is a deeper level interview. We're going to ask more questions, and we're going to ask questions that are specific to their industry. So in the 15-minute free assessment, we don't have a lot of time to dive deep into like their profession. If they're a realtor, right? We don't have 15 minutes isn't enough time to dive into a realtor specific workflows. However, when we do the paid assessment, we have 45 minutes, so we have a lot more time to do that. Now, one thing I want to mention here with the paid assessment, so my first 10 paid assessments, I did this portion of the assessment, the 45-minute interview, by myself. I was on a Zoom call with the client, asking them the questions, with my AI note taker in the call, taking notes, and me just running the interview. We actually built a voice agent called Annie, who now does the interview portion of the assessment for us. So instead of me having to spend 45 minutes on the front end with the client, I can literally text them a phone number, say, hey, call this phone number, talk to my voice agent. She will run you through the whole interview. And then we take that transcript and feed it into the next step. Now, you're not going to build the voice agent on day one. You're going to do these yourself first. You have to do that to build the expertise to be able to build the voice agent correctly. Now, members of our AI Operator Academy community, they actually get the voice agent built for them. So we give them a skill that literally builds the voice agent A to Z. And that's for our community members. Now, like I said, you're going to do your first 10 assessment or your first 10 interviews first manually, and then you could build a voice agent. So we do that 45-minute interview. In that interview, we start by asking 7 to 8 more general questions. So kind of like the ones that we asked in the mini assessment, things like, where does work tend to pile up? What have you tried to what have you tried to automate in the past and failed? What are, your biggest opportunities for automation? We're just asking them those questions. And then we get into more specific questions specific to their industry. Now, we also give our community members the full question bank that they can ask during the interview portion of the assessment, including industry specific questions. So again, if I'm talking to a realtor, we might say, okay, what does your showing process look like? Or what does the process look like for listing new properties? Or how do you follow up with new home buyers, right? So depending on the industry they're in, as the interview progresses, we get more and more detailed and granular and industry specific with our questions and our question bank. So we've got our AI note taker sitting in on the call, whether that's one like Fathom, whether that's Otter or Fireflies. There's a million AI note takers out there. And our AI note taker is taking notes and creating the transcript. And once we have that transcript, we take that transcript, which is going to include the 3 to 7, sometimes more than 7 bottlenecks that the client mentions during the transcript. And we are going to take that and feed it into Claude. We built a very specific skill that Claude runs in order to analyze that transcript to pull out some of the exact pain points and go out and actually research those tools for us, right? So instead of me having to go to Futurepedia, or instead of me having to go to there'sanaIforthat.com and manually looking for the tools that could help the client, this Claude skill that we built is trained to do that. So Claude's able to do like 90% of the heavy lifting, and that's a skill that we give to our community members as well, just as part of their membership. And so when it does that analysis, right, it's going to score the client's pain points and the tools that it finds on a matrix of effort versus impact. And I'm going to show you what that looks like visually here in a second. But from a high level, what that means is this report is designed to uncover the pain points and the tools that can solve them that are high impact, low effort. Okay, so these are things that we can implement very easily, meaning low effort, that really move the needle in our business, high impact, right? So it's in the top left quadrant of that impact versus effort matrix. I'll show you guys what that looks like in a second when I show you the actual report. So we basically take that analysis, the results of that Claude skill, and we feed that into a report that we built inside Claude Design. This is a 6-part report, and I've actually included the report template as a completely free download in the description and in the show notes. So that link is there, or you could just go to audittemplate.ai and download the exact template that I'm about to show you guys. Okay, so this is a Claude Design template. This is exactly what it looks like, and we're going to go through each slide one by one. So again, we take the analysis that we got from the Claude skill. We could literally dump that here into Claude Design and say, hey, here's the analysis from the call transcript. Feed that into the assessment template right here. And it'll do exactly that, and then you're done. And then your deliverable is pretty much ready to go. But let's go through the actual assessment itself. So we've got our little title slide here. This is where we put the client's name next to prepared for. Then we go into the executive summary slide. So this is where we quantify the main pain points that the client had, the main outcome that they can expect to achieve, the hours that they can reclaim every week. So during the interview portion of the assessment, this is where we ask them, every time we uncover a pain point, we ask them, okay, how many hours is that taking you per week? And so we basically total up all those hours, apply it to the tools that we found, and if the tools can eliminate those bottlenecks, then that's the hours that they can reclaim each week. That's what we put in that box. And then we add our primary focus. So remember earlier when we talked about the 3 levers of ROI, we talked about effectiveness, efficiency, and quality as being the three main things that we get out of an AI tool or implementation. Well, whichever one the report focuses mainly on is the one that we put in our primary focus. So let's say that this particular client, let's say we uncover a lot of efficiency opportunities, a lot of opportunities for them to use AI to save time. Not necessarily make more money, not necessarily improve the quality of their product or service, but to be more efficient. Well, in that case, we would put efficiency in the primary focus box. That's all that means. All right, and the next slide is the effort versus impact matrix. So this is what I was describing earlier. This is what that looks like. So again, this is a matrix where we plot how much effort is it going to take us to implement this particular solution, and how much of an impact is that going to have on our business. And this report, like I said earlier, focuses on the quick wins. This is the top left of this quadrant. These are the tools or the implementations that are high impact. They move the needle, but they're low effort, meaning they don't take a lot of effort to implement. So naturally, the stuff on the bottom left, the stuff that's low effort, low impact, we're not going to spend much time there because it's not really going to move the needle. The stuff in the bottom right, we are going to completely ignore because those are high effort but low impact. Why would we want to spend a lot of time doing something that's not going to move the needle? That's what those are. And then in the top right are major projects. These are things that are both high impact and high effort. So they move the needle, but it's more than just installing an off-the-shelf tool. And these are actually what we put in a later part of the presentation as potential upsell opportunities for that client. And we'll get into that in a second. So the slide after that is quick wins. So this is where we kind of quickly summarize the exact pain points that we found and the exact tools that we're prescribing to fix them. So for example, this first line might say, client struggles with email workload, and the arrow points to SaneBox. The second line might say, client has no way to take notes during calls, and the arrow points to Fathom Note Taker, right? So this is just like a very quick summary of the quick wins for this particular client. The next slide, the recommended solution slide, this is where you're going to spend half of your review call with the client or more. This is the one slide that really earns you the full price, because this is where we lay out all of the recommended solutions that we're prescribing. So each box here is going to prescribe each tool in detail. So this is where we say it's a one-liner about the pain point, a one-liner of what the tool is, like what is the name of the tool, and then a line for the cost. So how much does the tool cost the client each month? How complex is the setup? Is it plug and play? Is it going to take them 30 minutes to set up? Is it going to take them an hour to set up? That's where we put that. And then the saves line is where we tell them how much time it's going to save them each week. And then we simply apply that template to each tool that we're prescribing in our report. So like I said, the average report, we're going to prescribe anywhere from 3 to 7 tools. Usually 4 or 5 is the sweet spot. Next, we are going to give them their 4-day quick wins plan. Now, what I like about this slide is this is what makes it really easy for them to implement. So some clients, you got to remember that our clients here are business owners that are usually working 40, 50, 80 hours a week. And those business owners are so in the weeds that unless you give them a really clear roadmap for exactly how to implement this stuff, a lot of times they won't implement it. So this is where we tell them, hey, over the next 4 days, you do this one thing each day to get value out of this report. So for example, day 1 might be, all right, on day 1, you are going to download SaneBox and connect it to your email. That's it. Day 2, you are going to download Fathom Note Taker and connect it to your Google Meet, right? So again, the point is just to make it so simple that by day 4, they've gotten the majority of the value out of the report because they've implemented one recommended tool, one suggestion each day. Super easy for them. Now the next slide is the what comes after quick wins. So remember earlier when we were talking about the impact versus effort matrix, that top right box, those major projects. So those major projects are things that they're a little bit of a heavier lift to implement, but we can tee them up as an upsell. So what comes after quick wins? this is where we'll put those major projects that we identified earlier. So for example, one of those might be, hey, you need to redo your customer onboarding sequence, and that might be a full Zapier workflow. Or hey, your invoicing process could be turned into a Claude skill, so that should be a Claude skill, right? So like this is where we kind of lay out those heavier lifts that are more complex than just downloading a simple tool. And then lastly is the financial impact slide. So this is where we really quantify the ROI that they get out of implementing our suggestions from this assessment. So this is where we take their weekly time returned, which we quantified because we asked them during the assessment, how much time does each of these tasks take you? We look at the total monthly cost of all the tools that we prescribe, and then we give them their monthly net ROI. So let's say, for example, of all the tools that we found for them here, on average, they can save 5 hours per week if they just implement what we say here. So that's 20 hours per month. And let's say that during the interview portion of the call, we asked them how much their time was worth, and they told us their time was worth $200 an hour, right? So if you take $200 an hour times 5 hours per week, right? That's $1,000 a week that they're getting back times 4 weeks in a month. That's $4,000 a month in terms of time saved that they are getting back if they implement what we're suggesting here. And then we just subtract out the total monthly tool cost that we recommended in our report. So let's say all the tools, if they downloaded all the tools that we recommended and subscribed to them, it's going to cost them $60 a month. So we take that $4,000 a month that they're going to get back minus the $60 a month in tool cost for a total monthly net ROI of $3,940 a month. So what that means is that they got a 3.6x ROI on this assessment investment in month one. Every month after that, they get essentially $3,940 back every month. That's how we frame this. And that's why these assessments are so impactful and why people pay for them and why it sells, because it actually works. All right. And then we go into the final slide, which is your next steps. This is where we can have them, we can put like a link to our Calendly for them to schedule the review call, which we'll go into next. And then this is where we usually say like, implement the 4-day quick win plan and then schedule your review call. And the reason that we include this final slide here is because we always send them this report before we do the actual review call. And then on the review call is where we go over this with them. So that's what we're going to talk about next. So we talked about the report, and after we send them the report, right, we actually set up a 30-minute review call with them, which is where we sit down, we literally just screen share with them the report that I just showed you, and we go through it line by line. All right, that is where we show them everything we're recommending, and we ask for the upsell, which we will talk about next, which is our AI Concierge service. Now, a little bit more background on this report. So when I started selling this AI tools assessment, we started off pricing this at $200. And what we found is that while people were more than willing to pay $200, they weren't getting as much value out of it, because to them, something that only costs $200 is cheap, right? So it's like, hey, this only costs $200. You're claiming you can save me 5 hours a week. That can't be worth it, right? That can't be true. Otherwise, it would cost more than $200. Like, that's kind of the perception we were getting. So then we upped it to $500. Again, people were happy to pay it. They weren't really implementing at the rate that we liked. It was only once we started charging $1,000 for this assessment that people started taking it seriously. In fact, the first time we charged $1,000 for this assessment, it was to a guy who owned multiple businesses. He bought 3 assessments on the spot. He bought one for himself, he bought one for his business partner, and he bought one for one of his top employees. So right off the bat, we collected $3,000 for 3 assessments. And I could tell these guys they did take it seriously, because we charged them more for it and they paid more attention to the prescriptions, and they actually implemented what we told them because they had a financial stake, because they paid $1,000 a piece. So this is my way of saying, learn from my mistakes. Do not undercharge for this assessment. Yes, you're gonna do your first 1 to 3 of these for free in order to get testimonials and case studies. But as soon as you have 2 or 3 testimonials, you go straight to charging $1,000 for this. Never charge, if you're gonna charge for this, never charge less than $1,000. Okay, do the first 2 or 3 for free to get testimonials, and then immediately jump to $1,000 price point. Guys, what's beautiful about the assessment is your margin, especially if you're doing this yourself. If you're not having a voice agent do this, this is a 99.9% net margin product. Your only cost here is a Claude subscription, which is $20 a month, okay? So technically it's a 99.8% net margin, but you get the idea. Now, let's go into the upsell map, which is all about our AI Concierge offer. We're gonna get deep into the AI Concierge. This is my favorite part by far. This is my current offer that's bringing in the vast majority of my personal income, where I'm making over $1,000 an hour with this offer, and we're gonna dive deep into that next. All right, now we're gonna get into the fun part, which is talking about AI Concierge. So let's first of all define what is the AI Concierge offer. Well, AI Concierge is when we sit down with a small business owner twice a month for 45 minutes each time. And literally all we're doing is we are helping them implement Claude Cowork and helping them build Claude skills to automate a lot of the repetitive tasks in their business. So we're gonna go through the full engagement from beginning to end. But remember what we talked about earlier, AOA, that audit, optimize, automate framework. Well, that is pretty much what we're running on all of their manual processes, one after the other, during the entire engagement. That's all we're doing. So the concierge offer is anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 per month retainer engagement that is meant to be month to month. And the reason we do this is we want to create recurring revenue. So we charge a high price because this is a done with you consulting offer. It's very high touch, where we are directly implementing automations into their business and helping them save time, make money, and increase the quality of their product or service. Now, before we dive into the full retainer model, we put this in we call it like the AI Concierge playbook. So again, that's going to be in the description and in the show notes. This is a full, super detailed Notion document and guide that walks you through everything I'm about to tell you, but in even more detail, and it's a free download. So again, in the AI Concierge engagement, the first thing that we're going to focus on, and really the main thing that they're paying for, are those 2 45-minute working sessions that they get every month. So a lot of people ask, well, what do we do during these sessions? So the very first working session we ever do with the client is when we onboard them to Claude Cowork and we get their workspace set up. So we've actually built a plugin, our Claude Cowork onboarding plugin, that we emailed to the client before the engagement. And on that first call, we have them install the plugin. And what that plugin does is it walks them through a guided onboarding. So that's going to help them set up, that's going to help them connect their tools. It's going to help them set up their context files, which is their about me, their working preferences, and their brand voice. It's going to write their global instructions. It's going to teach them how scheduled tasks work. And then it's going to run a lightweight, almost another like mini audit to figure out, well, what are they doing inside their tools that we could potentially turn into skills? So all we are doing as the concierge on that first call is kind of babysitting them through that process. And we actually give that Claude plugin to our AI Operator Academy community members. So everything that I'm about to show you here, the Claude plugin, the 3 Claude skills that we built to automate the entire back end of this process, the JotForm template, the Notion Client Hub, everything I'm about to show you in this module is included in our AI Operator Academy community. Our community members get this business in a box, essentially. So again, if you're interested in joining the community, that link is going to be in the description, or you can go to aoa.community if you're interested in that. So again, that's what we do on the first working session, is onboard them to Claude Cowork. Every working session after that is us running AOA on all their existing processes. And the way that we determine which process we start with is the JotForm intake, which I'll show you guys in a second. But again, AOA is such a simple process. We are auditing the task as it sits today. We're going to watch them share their screen and perform the manual task. Then we're going to optimize. We're going to cut out the fat and make it a more streamlined process. And then lastly, we're going to automate it by turning it into a Claude skill. And we're going to run that process for all of their processes, as many as we can during the engagement. one after the other after the other. So that is the entire engagement. Now, in between calls, clients get unlimited access to us via Voxer with a 12 business hour response time guarantee. So all that means is that at any time a client can send me a voice message with Voxer, which is like a walkie-talkie app, and I promise to respond in 12 business hours or less. That's all that means. And a lot of people listening to this might think, well, that's a huge lift. Like, that's a ton of work. I don't necessarily want to be answering client questions all day. Well, what's funny about this is a very high perceived value. So clients hear that and they're like, oh, I have Corey on call. I can hit him up whenever I need to. That's great. Realistically, you get almost no messages. In the 3 months that I've been doing this, I've gotten a total of 4 messages across 5 clients. So there's pretty much nothing to worry about here. It's very high perceived value, but you don't actually end up having to do a ton of work with it. Now, I like to cap this at 6 clients. Like I said, I have 5 right now, just because I have other things going on. I'm capping this at 6, but somebody who does this full time could easily handle 10 to 12 clients or more, which would generate anywhere from 10 to 20K a month in monthly recurring revenue. Now, my blended hourly rate across all my clients is close to $1,250 per hour. So I have 1 client at $1,200 a month, 2 clients at $1,500 a month each, 1 client at $1,800 a month, and 1 client at $2,000 a month. If you're charging $1,500 per month for 2 45-minute calls, then your effective hourly rate is $1,000 an hour, because what I'm about to show you next is how we automate the entire back end of this offer. So literally, my only time spent in being an AI concierge is on the 45-minute calls with clients. As far as like the reporting and the follow-up and the filling out the Notion and all the stuff that goes with it, we have Claude skills that do that for us, and it takes us less than 5 minutes per client per week. All right, so what does that look like in practice? So the first thing we do is we send the client a intake form via JotForm. So I'm going to show you guys that template here in a second. This is just almost like a deeper assessment. So I know we already did the full paid assessment with them, but this is a way to do almost an additional assessment that dives a little deeper that we can then pipe into Claude and have that inform the project that we're going to set up for the client, as well as some of the other deliverables. So I'll show you what that looks like here. In JotForm, this is our AI Concierge intake form. This is where we have the client fill out some basic information. So it's like, what does your business actually do? How many hours a week are you spending in the business versus on the business? What are your biggest time sinks? Give us a process inventory. What are you doing in sales? What are you doing in operations? What are you doing in finance? What are you doing in marketing? And what are you doing in intelligence? Right? So this is just a much more detailed assessment that's all across the business, versus when we did the paid assessment with them, chances are we dug deep on 1 or 2 areas. Now, after that, we get into their tool stack. What tools are you using? Give us some feedback on your team. Who all is on your team? How are they using AI? And then the most important part of this assessment is the outcomes section. So this is where we ask, if you reclaim 10 hours per week, what would you do with that time? And then the most important question of all, what does winning look like 90 days from now? Because my clients, when they fill out this section here, what does winning look like 90 days from now? Of my 5 clients, 4 of them, we have already achieved their 90-day goal in less than 90 days. We achieved it in about 45 days on average. So for example, one of my clients, their answer to this question was, well, 90 days from now, this would be a successful engagement if I was able to automate my customer onboarding process. And we did that by week 5, right? So their 90-day goal was achieved in 5 weeks, which in their mind makes this engagement very worth it and makes them want to keep paying, because now there's even more things that we can do even past their 90-day goal. So this is our way of being able to quantify the value that they paid us for. And then lastly, we just asked for their best email. Have they installed Voxer? Is there any like industry specific jargon we need to know, and anything else I need to know before the call? So that is the JotForm intake form. We send that to them before the first call. And my rule is, if this form is not filled out, we do not do the first call. Because the reason for that is because we take the answers from the JotForm template and we use that to create project files for a Claude project that is specific to that client. So I'm going to show you guys a Claude project that I have set up for one of my clients. And the reason that we set up 1 Claude project per client is because anytime we're doing any work in Claude for that particular client, we do it inside this project so that Claude has full context on everything we're doing with that client. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. So the first thing that we do is we run a skill called intake to, intake to project files right here. So what this skill does is it takes the JotForm submission, the JotForm template that we sent to the client, it takes that as input and then turns their answers into 6 context files that bootstrap a new client's Claude project. And then it outputs the actual project instructions for that client. So basically, as soon as the client finishes filling out that JotForm intake form, we run this skill, it goes into JotForm, it pulls their answers, and then it turns them into some specific context files, which I'll show you here. So this is one of my concierge clients, her name's Tanya, and the result of the skill that I just showed you are these 6 context files right here. So first is a process inventory, second is the client profile, third are the client's time sinks, fourth are their goals and outcomes, fifth is their tool stack, and sixth is the client glossary. And then lastly, it will write the project instructions that tie all this together inside the Claude project. So now anytime that I need to do any work for this particular client, Tanya, I will do it inside this Claude project because Claude has perfect context and perfect memory on exactly what I'm doing for Tanya. That is why we run that skill. That is why we have one project per client. And that is why we built that skill to do exactly that, right? So that is how we take the JotForm intake, we turn it into the 6 project files. Now any work we do for that client, we do inside that project. The next thing that we do is we create a client hub in Notion that we share with the client. So this is a client-facing document, and this is kind of their one-stop shop for all the work that we're doing together. So this is the template that we built in Notion. It is the client's private workspace. And what we tell them is, look, every call we have gets logged here with the top 3 takeaways and action items. This is your single source of truth. So inside the template, we've got our quick links. So we've got links directly to our Voxer account. We've got a link to our calendar booking link for them to book their next strategy call. And then for any questions outside of Voxer, we just include our email address. Next, we have the engagement overview. So this is where we should just kind of reiterate like, hey, this is the start date. This is the cadence. This is my primary contact at the client organization. This is our focus areas based on your JotForm intake. Next, we go into our open action items. So this is a rolling list of every action item from every call. So as we're going through and doing our work together, there might be little things that I need to do between calls. Virtually nothing though, ever for me. Usually it's stuff for the client, such as, oh, I got to go, connect this connector, or I've got to go, round up these reference files for us to include in the skill. So all those action items are included here in the Notion log. Next is the call log itself. So this is where every call gets logged, and each call gets its own section, starting with the newest call at the top. And for each call, we're going to have the date, the duration, a link to the call recording, a link to the call summary using our AI note taker, the top 3 takeaways from that call, any action items that came from that call, and a list of the tools or skills that we built during the call. And that is the most critical piece of this entire Notion hub, is the list of skills that we built each call, because that is where we show the client in unmistakable detail, this is exactly what you're getting for your money, right? Hey, on this call, we built these 3 context files. We built these 2 skills. We built this set of project instructions, right? So that's where the client can look at that and say, okay, I see exactly what I'm getting for my money. This is worth it, and I'm going to keep paying it. So that is what the Notion hub looks like. And I'll show you next how we fill that out after each call with the client in less than 5 minutes using a couple of Claude skills, as well as sending a post-call wrap-up email to the client to summarize everything that we did. So remember how I showed you the intake to project file skill? So that is one of 4 skills that we've created for the AI Concierge offer. So the next one is AI Concierge call update, right? So this is the skill that we run as soon as we get off a call with a client, that takes the transcript of that call and uses the information from the transcript to fully update and populate the Notion hub. So looking at the Notion Hub, it's like, oh, I've got to go after every call and like fill in the takeaways and fill in the action items and add the Google Drive link and add the Fathom link. Actually, we don't have to do any of that. This Claude skill does it all for us. So as you can see from the description of the skill, it says after every AI Concierge call, Corey logs a session into the client's private Notion page. That page is the client's source of truth between calls, so it needs the recording, the Fathom recap, 3 takeaways, 3 action items, and a list of what was actually built on the call. This skill automates that wrap up. So all I have to do is literally run the / command that runs this skill, and it's completely done for me in less than 5 minutes. The next skill that we run after that, and this is also immediately after each client call, is the AI Concierge follow-up email skill. So this is a skill that basically takes the top 3 takeaways from the client call, drafts an email to the client, rehashing those takeaways, and then links their Notion page. So it's basically like, hey, Tanya, great call today. Here's the top 3 things that we accomplished. Here's a link to your Notion page that's fully updated. Looking forward to the next call, right? Like that's pretty much all it says. But the reason that's important is we even say it right here, right? This is a retainer renewal mechanism. 3 or 4 crisp bullet points that summarize what was accomplished, framed as concrete outcomes so that the team or the client feels the value and stays bought in. This is just one of those little things that makes this a very premium, high touch, high quality engagement, and the client is they want to keep repaying every month because they're getting value. Now, those 2 skills, right, we could run them one at a time back to back, but what we built instead is what's called an orchestrator skill called AI Concierge Post Call, that all I have to do is run this one orchestrator skill, and it is going to run the 2 skills that I showed you just before this back to back. So if I run AI Concierge Post Call, it is going to run the AI Concierge Call Update skill, and then it's going to immediately run the AI Concierge Follow-up Email skill back to back. So this is an example of skill chaining or skill orchestration, where if you have a bunch of skills that you usually run one after the other, you can build an orchestrator skill that chains those skills together so that you only have to run the orchestrator skill, right? So this is one that, so really after every call, literally all I do is run AI Concierge Post Call. It delivers all of the outputs that I just explained to you, and then I'm completely done until the next call with that client 2 weeks later, except unless they have any Voxer messages between now and then, which they almost never do. So that is the full AI Concierge process beginning to end. All of it is meant to act as a renewal engine so that the client sees the value and they want to keep paying us every month. And again, the AI Concierge, just like the AI assessment, everything I just showed you, all 4 Claude skills, the Notion template, the Jotform template, every single thing, and the Claude skill, the plugin that walks the client through the Claude Cowork onboarding, all of that is inside AI Operator Academy, right? It is a business in a box that you guys literally get as soon as you join that community, if you choose to do so. All right, next we're going to talk about how do we find clients, okay? There are 7 different ways that we teach inside the community to find clients, but I just pulled out my top 4 because these are the easiest to explain and quite honestly the most effective. So the first one is to do free mini assessments for your existing warm network. So all you're going to do is you're going to make a list of 10 people that you know. These could be, friends of yours that own businesses. These could be people from church, from the gym. These could be the parents of your kids' friends. Bottom line is you're going to make a list of 10 small business owners you know. You're going to send them a text message that says, hey, I've gotten really deep into the world of AI. I am starting to look at how AI can help small business owners save time and make more money. I'd love to sit down with you for 15 minutes and uncover one specific area where AI can help you in your business and give you one tool recommendation that you could implement immediately. At the very worst, what you're going to do is you're going to learn a lot from that meeting. Best case, I'm going to show you a tool that you didn't know existed that's going to be very effective in your business. Are you interested? You're literally going to send that text message. Like, go pull that exactly what I just said from the transcript. Send that to 10 people. If you send that to 10 people that you already know, you're going to get 6 meetings. If you get 6 meetings, you're going to get 1 to 2 people that are interested in the follow-up paid assessment, right, for $9.99 that we already talked about. So that's the first method. That's the most effective. That's how you're going to get a client this week. okay? The next method is a little more logistically intensive, but this is a long-term play that really compounds and continues to send you leads over time. And that is hosting a local AI for business meetup. So this is something that I've started to do. Our very first, or actually our second one of the year, is July 29th in Charlotte. I'm hosting it at a co-working space. All you're doing here is you are partnering with a co-working space. You're getting a little room at the co-working space. You are doing a 90-minute event. The first 30 minutes is networking. The second 30 minutes is me giving a very basic presentation about how to use Claude Cowork and then answering questions. And the last 30 minutes is more networking. And all you're doing is you're going into free Facebook groups dedicated to business owners in your city. You're advertising your meetup in those Facebook groups. When people register for your event on meetup.com, you're going to get their email address and phone number. 24 hours after the event, you're going to text everybody that attended, and you are going to tell them, hey, thanks for showing up. Are you interested in a free 15-minute mini assessment where I can show you exactly where AI fits into your business? No pitch, no strings attached. Are you interested? And again, multiple of those people will take you up on that. And of the people that take you up on that, there are going to be a small subset that are interested in the full paid assessment. So that is the local meetup strategy. Next is building your first lead magnet. So this is something where, you could do this online, right? You could start posting content, get people kind of coming to you, but that takes a long time. So what I like to do instead is I want people to go to the clients in real life, right? And that involves going and knocking on doors of people in your city or town, like mom and pop owned service businesses. And your lead magnet in this case is the free mini AI assessment, right? So again, I like to target businesses that have strong reviews, like they have a lot of good Google reviews, but maybe they have a weak web presence or they don't have any website at all. You can tell the business owner isn't very tech savvy. So when we show up in person and ask to speak to the manager or ask to speak to the business owner and offer that free mini assessment, it's very well received. I had a guy DM me on X yesterday saying he door knocked one business in his town. It was a financial firm. He walked in the door, talked to the CEO, ended up taking the CEO out for coffee same day and closed them on a paid assessment. He was 1 for 1 when it comes to door knocking. Now, is that normal? Absolutely not. But that goes to show that if you need a client today or this week, that is the fastest way to do it. And the last method, this is also one of my favorites, is partnership marketing, whether it's, guesting on podcasts, going, speaking at local chamber of commerce events in your town, or it could be as simple as approaching professional service owners in your city or town. Everybody listening to this has an accountant. They probably have an insurance agent. They have a realtor that they've worked with in the past. These are people where their clients are also your ideal client. So think about, go to them and say to them, hey, are your clients asking you about AI? Because they all are, right? Hey, whenever your clients ask you about AI, I'd love for you to point them my direction, and I'd be happy to help them and answer any questions they have as it relates to AI in their business. And what you'll find is that if you continue to follow up with those professional service people, they will start sending you their clients. If you do a good job for their clients, they'll keep sending you more people. And a lot of those referrals are going to turn into your own clients, right? Another way to do that is to approach, again, your CPA or your insurance person or other professional service people that you know and offer to do a joint or co-hosted event in your city or town. So you say to them, hey, I'd love to do a free AI workshop for your clients to educate them on AI and how they can use AI in their business. What do you say we co-host it together? I will handle the whole thing. You just tell your people to show up. And again, it makes them look really good if they have an AI resource that they can point their clients to. So those are the 4 ways to find clients that tend to be easier for folks, especially that don't have a lot of money to get started and don't have an audience, don't have followers. These are all things you can do this week that require no money or audience. All right, now let's talk about the economics of this offer. So when it comes to the AI assessments as well as the AI Concierge, this is a 99.8% net profit margin offer, right? Because our only cost to fulfill this offer is a $20 a month Claude subscription. So if we're charging $999 for an AI assessment and our only cost is a $20 Claude subscription, that's a 99.8% net margin. Same with AI Concierge. If we're charging $1,000 a month, that is a 99.8% net margin every month. So this is the most profitable model that you could implement across any business I've ever heard of ever. It does not get more profitable than this. Now, the next thing I want to talk about in terms of economics is doing free work, all right? Because a lot of people out there, they're afraid to work for free. They think that if they're not getting paid to deliver a service, it's a waste of time or a waste of effort on their end, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I always tell people, I'm like, look, do your first 1 to 3 assessments for free in return for a testimonial, in return for a case study, and you look at that free work as a pipeline. So just because you did an assessment for somebody for free doesn't mean that that client can't turn around and hire you as an AI concierge, or that doesn't mean that they can't turn around and hire you for other AI implementation work. So I encourage people to view free work as pipeline building and testimonial building versus just going out there and working for free with nothing to show for it. The smartest people I know turn free work into paid engagements in other ways. Now, I encourage you also to raise your price every time you get a yes. So as I mentioned earlier with my AI Concierge offer, the first person I pitched was at $1,200 a month. They immediately said yes. So I knew I left money on the table. The next person I pitched was at $1,500 a month. They immediately said yes. The next person I pitched, I also pitched at $1,500 a month because I was like, there's no way somebody's going to pay more than $1,500 a month, right? I kind of had that mental block, but they immediately said yes. The fourth person I pitched at $1,800 a month, they immediately said yes. The fifth person I pitched at $2,000 a month immediately said yes. So it's like every time I get a yes, I've been raising my price, and people have still been saying yes with zero hesitation. So this is one of those offers that I think has a much higher ceiling even than what I've achieved currently. So I encourage you, when it comes to assessments or AI Concierge, keep raising your price. Every time you get a yes, raise your price. We are offering a really valuable, really high touch service, and we should be able to charge as much as we physically can, as much as the client is willing to pay, because this is a high value, high demand service. Now, you're going to run into a few objections when it comes to pitching your services, and that's a big pain point that people have. So let's look at a few of those. And guys, this is another resource that is going to be free in the description below. The top 8 objections that you're likely to run into when pitching AI services. This is another little Notion document outlining all 8 of these. Again, free resource in the description. We're going to go into the top 3 here because to look at all 8, again, you can just download that resource, but we're going to look at the top 3. So my favorite one is when people push back and say like, well, can't I just use Claude or can't I just use ChatGPT myself and figure this stuff out myself? And my response is always, well, sure, you could. And I could do my own taxes if I wanted to, or I could write my own insurance if I wanted to, but I don't because I'm not a CPA and I'm not an insurance agent. So wouldn't it make more sense to hire somebody who knows this stuff, whose job it is to stay on top of this stuff to help you, versus spending the time and money and effort to figure it out yourself via trial and error, right? So that's always my rebuttal to that response. Now, the other objection that I love to get, because it's an easy one to overcome, is, well, I don't have time to learn this stuff right now. I'm too busy in my business. And my response is, look, that is all the more reason why you should be learning this stuff. The purpose of AI is to make you more money, save you time, or increase the quality of your product or service. If anything, you can't afford not to do this right now. This is a big opportunity, and that for every day you wait, your competitor is going to get ahead of you. And then lastly, my favorite is the let me think about it or let me talk to my partner. And usually my response to that is like, look, I get it. That makes sense. It's a real decision. But at the end of the day, every week and every day that you wait is another chunk of time spent doing things that AI could be doing for you. And realistically, the cost of getting started is small in the grand scheme of things, but the cost of continuing to do what you're doing is nothing ever changes, right? You're stuck in the same place and you don't get the benefits that your competitors are getting in implementing AI. So those are my top 3 favorite objections and how to overcome them. Again, if you want the full 8 objection playbook, that's free in the description. Now let's talk about your first 30 days. What's the playbook? How do we take this to ground level and go and implement and get a client, get up to even making 5 to 10K or more in our first 30 days? Well, week 1, our goal is to book 3 free mini assessments. So remember that exercise that I mentioned to you earlier, making a list of those 10 small business owners that you know? Well, you're going to make a list of 10. You're going to text all 10. 6 are going to respond. 1 to 3 are going to book a free mini assessment, right? So if you don't get 3 booked mini assessments from the first 10, you're going to do a second round of 10, all right? And if you reach out to 20 people that you know or that know you in some capacity, you're going to book at least 3 free mini assessments. So in week 2, you're going to conduct the assessments, you're going to do your research outside of the call, and then you're going to prescribe them the one tool that you think can benefit them based on the 15-minute call you had, and you're going to upsell them, you're going to pitch them on the full paid assessment. So when you prescribe the one tool, you say to them, hey, this was one tool, this is one thing that you can implement in your business where AI can really help, but I actually offer a full, more in-depth assessment where I prescribe anywhere from 3 to 7 tools, just like the one I showed you here. That costs $9.99. It's much more in-depth. Are you interested in that? Right? So we're gonna pitch them the paid assessment. And if we do 3 free assessments, at least one of those free assessments is going to convert to paid, virtually guaranteed. And then in weeks 3 through 4, we are going to conduct our first paid assessment, right? So that is where we're going to do our paid assessment with the client. We're going to do the full AI assessment workflow that we showed you earlier. We're going to give them the 3 to 7 tools that they can implement immediately. And then we are going to pitch them our AI Concierge retainer. So it's like, hey, here's the assessment. Here's the 3 to 7 tools that you could use. These are great, but do you want my help in implementing them? If so, then let's talk about my AI Concierge offer, right? So that's where we have a conversation with them about AI Concierge. We'll start at $1,000 a month, and every time we get a yes, we work our way up to $2,000 per month over time. And it's also during weeks 3 to 4 that I recommend you start to structure your first in-person AI for business meetup, like I explained earlier, right? That is something that we month 1, you might get leads, you might not, but by month 3, 4, 5, and 6, you are going to be the go-to AI guy in your town, and you're going to start getting a ton of lead flow from that. So at the end of the day, that is the full roadmap. That is the full playbook. I held nothing back here. If you want the full AI assessment and AI Concierge business in a box, all the resources, all the skills, all the templates, everything I showed you here in one place, then join our AI Operator Academy community. We have a guarantee that if you don't find your first AI client in 90 days, then we give you every single dime that you spent to join the community back. You have nothing to lose. Link to join is going to be in the description and the show notes, or go to aoa.community and join us today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.